The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max 205 Live. See, I think I do a better job than voiceover guy does. The only thing I'm missing is that stupid theme song that we've heard every week for a year and a half now.
Yes, but I like when they do the old Cruiserweight Classic theme for the championship matches.
Yeah, but you would think they could mix it up a little bit. I mean, Monday Night Raw gets a new theme song every year.
SmackDown has had the same theme since they went live.
Okay, but that's actually a pretty decent song.
True. I don't mind. I don't mind the 205 Live theme.
I like the NXT theme song the most.
I like both of the NXT theme songs the most. I like the new one, but I miss the old one too at the same time.
I like the new Raw theme song as well. We're not nameless, we're not faceless, we were born for greatness.
We never hear it though. They always just jump right into it. They never do an entrance for Raw anymore.
Yeah, we never get the Papa Roach. What's up with that, as Hurricane would say? Oh, hi. Greetings, everybody. It's like you stumbled into our conversation. This is the Wrestling to the Max 205 Live review for July 10th, 2018. I almost said January because that's how screwed up my head is right now.
You're about 6 months off.
Which is ironic because that's about how far off I am for how the war was. What we forgot to do plugs on SmackDown.
Yeah, we did.
Son of a bitch. Oh, well, we'll do them at the end of this show.
Okay, fair enough.
He's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Harry Broadhurst. As you can tell, it has been quite the afternoon here at the W2M studios located in lovely Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. / Youngstown, Ohio-ish, sort of. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this Sunday. Again, full details on my trip to come next Tuesday night on the SmackDown Live review. But this is the other brand on Tuesday nights, and this is what many would argue is the good brand on Tuesday nights. This is your 205 Live review that we're going to be getting into in a second here. But one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on, since there isn't really any other place for us to talk about this here, and I figured 205 Live is the quicker of the show, so we can kind of freestyle a little bit on this one here.
Yep.
They announced the first name for the Mae Young Classic this year and this is relevant because the 205 Live started as the Cruiserweight Classic, which then gave birth to the UK Championship Tournament and the Mae Young Classic #1.
Yep.
So that's kind of my tie-in here.
And then UK 2 and Mae Young 2 now.
Yes, Mae Young 2. And they have finally announced the first official participant for Mae Young Classic 2, and it is the returning Caitlyn.
Yeah, surprising, but it's kind of like, what's her name from last year?
You're stealing my reference from the Lost Art episode.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what's going to happen here is we actually tried to record this once, and my phone shut down on me because it got too warm. It is 85 degrees in the state of Ohio today, and my phone was like, nope, screw you, get me under some cooling fans. He's referring to Serena Deeb.
Yes.
And I can totally see that, except I think Caitlyn goes to the main roster once the NYC2 is done, not to the training center to help with the NXT girls.
I could see that, but I also think Caitlyn's kind of being brought in. And I think she'll work even better than Serena did, because Serena, unless you were really big into wrestling in the late aughts, you probably forgot about Serena. And plus, did she even use that name when she was with the Straight Edge Society? I feel like she used a different name.
She was just Serena. They never recognized the D.
Right. So, I think Caitlyn is going to work very well in what I would assume the reasoning behind bringing her in is, which is bringing some of the, more casual WWE-only fans over to the network to watch this, to say, hey, I remember her back in 2014. Let me go see what she's doing now.
Well, not to mention, she actually wasn't a terrible worker. She
No.
just didn't have a whole lot of people to work with back then either.
Yeah.
So I think the opportunity is there for her to have an actual successful run this time with the company.
Definitely.
Okay, with that being said, what do you say we get into the reason we're actually here, and let's talk 205 Live, shall we?
Let's do it.
Even though my cat's trying to get me not to talk 205 Live. No, Princess, I have a job to do. Our opening contest, scheduled for one fall, is Kalisto taking on Tony Nese. Kalisto ends up picking up a disqualification victory here when Buddy Murphy goes ape on the entire Lucha House Party at ringside. This happens at approximately, give me a second to pull up my report because my tablet shut down on me as well, approximately 6.5 minutes. So it seems like they're going right from the feud with Drew Gulak and Team Hurt You Bunches, or Team England, I guess, with Kendrick and Gallagher, to a feud with Buddy Murphy, Tony Nese, and whomever they find as the third person for their team.
Which, that's going to be interesting if they do try to go that route of having another 6-man thing. Because I don't really see anyone... the only person that I could even see kind of working in that group... Well, there are 2 people, but one is already part of that aforementioned faction that you talked about. And the other one's kind of doing his own individual thing of attempting to get his momentum back and failing miserably at it. And the only other person that I could even conceivably see putting in that spot is currently going, or at least it seems to me, he's going as a face right now.
All right, I'm listening. Who were your ideas?
The first idea would be Nese's old running buddy, Drew Gulak.
Absolutely not. Gulak's meant for better things right now.
The second is TJP, but he seems to be focused on himself right now.
And more specifically, Noam Dar will touch on that.
And that is the third person, would have been Noam Dar, but it seems like they're going to use him as a face right now.
Well, is there anybody else that's kind of in the Cruiserweight system that you could see potentially being another person there? A name that would have came to mind for me if it wasn't too busy down in NXT would have been Fabian Eichner, because Eichner has that build of like the heavyweight built like a Cruiserweight as well, except for the fact is I think Eichner put the weight back on and is now back at the heavyweight level. Yeah,
you're probably right there. Yeah, I don't really know. There's not much depth. I mean, you don't really need it because it's only an hour show, but there's not really much depth in the Cruiserweight division to where they're, I can't really think of anyone unless they're going to bring someone in. The one person I could have seen it happening to when they were doing the tournament and bringing some of the NXT guys in, you could have done it with like a Roderick Strong or, a Ciampa, but, both of them are too busy in NXT right now. So, it's going to be very interesting if they do go that route, who they decide to toss in there, because I don't really see any perfect match, really.
I have a name to throw out there if he's under 205.
Okay.
Wesley Blake.
That would be interesting. Bring back Blake and Murphy.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know how well that would work, just because I don't know, Buddy has the agility and everything, and kind of has the look where it's feasible that he could have lost that much weight and gone down to 205, but Wesley, I think, would just be too big.
Yeah, I just checked his Wikipedia stats, and they have him billed at 240, so, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely that they're going to figure out a way to have him lose 35 pounds.
So, I would think that they would have somebody in mind here, unless they're just going to go ahead and go about it with a straight tag formula and just have the members of the Lucha House Party switch out. But under that line of thinking, you're doing a disservice to at least one member of the Lucha House Party on a regular basis by not having them involved.
Definitely.
All right, so speaking of Buddy Murphy and the Let me try this again here. Speaking of the potential team members for Buddy Murphy, the aforementioned TJP and Noam Dar meet backstage with Drake Maverick. Maverick is talking with Dar first. Let me set the stage here. Maverick is talking with Dar first. They are interrupted by TJP, who says that it was a real funny stunt that Maverick pulled last week with the return of Dar, and that if he'd have known that Dar was going to be his opponent, that he would have taken Dar's lunch money. I mean, it's kind of summarized. Those weren't his exact words, but close enough. What's up, dog? But, so Drake Maverick decides to tell TJP, well, fine, you want an opportunity to prove that you can take Noam Dar? Then you'll have your opportunity to do so next week here on 205 Live as we get a rematch from last week's 30-second match between Dar and TJP. Are you okay with them going to a rematch so quickly here, or would you have liked to have seen them do a little bit more to build up to a rematch between Dar and Perkins?
I'm okay with it, just because I feel like the TJP feud, I think this is only going to be a mini feud, unless they are going to have the 50-50 booking of TJP getting his win back and then moving ahead and doing another match down the road. But I have a feeling that this is going to be just a quick little feud to get Dar some momentum back coming off of his injury. I think he's going to get another win. Maybe not quite as much of a squash. Hopefully not quite as much of a squash. But, I think he will win this and then move on to get more momentum going to another feud and slowly building himself back up.
Yeah, I could definitely see this as an opportunity for Dar to kind of establish himself. But with a babyface cruiserweight champion right now, I don't know how much further up the ladder Dar can really go right now, especially if they're intent on having him remain babyface in his return. Yeah,
I mean, well, that's the thing that, moving forward, and we'll talk about it more later for the main event, but, there really aren't many heels that, right now are legitimate contenders.
Our next contest, scheduled for one fall, is Colin Delaney. Wait, what? Oh, good for Colin. He takes on the man who came to collect. Came to collect. Lio Rush, the man of the hour. And a minute and 50 seconds later, Rush did collect another victory. This time with, I do believe it's called Rush Hour?
Yeah, I think they called it Rush Hour, I want to say.
The Frog Splash, I believe he calls it Rush Hour?
Yeah.
During the course of this match, right before it started, Akira Tozawa came out to watch the match, much the same way that Lio had come out to watch Tozawa the prior week against his jobber of choice, Jason Strife. So this is 2 weeks in a row that I've actually known who the jobber was on 205 Live. I appreciate the little things like this. Tozawa proceeds to applaud Lio Rush after the match and proceeds to cut one of the funnier Akira Tozawa promos that he's done in a very long time, basically mimicking Lio Rush last week, word for word. Rush calls him into the ring so that Lio could get the microphone. Akira first reaches out the microphone so that Rush can grab it and then pulls it away. Kind of the hand slap fake out where you fake like you're gonna slap the guy's hand and then slick your own hair back or whatever.
I thought he went for a handshake and then pulled it back.
Well, and then he goes to hand the microphone off, and then right as Leo's about to grab the microphone, Tozawa drops the microphone right at his feet.
Yep.
This apparently pisses Lio Rush off enough to want to fight. But that's all, folks. But Drake Maverick is having none of this, saying that a match of this marquee nature deserves to have some opportunity to be built. Therefore, in next week's main event, it will be Lio Rush taking on Akira Tozawa. Your thoughts on both the squash match, and then what are your expectations for this match next week?
The squash match was what you expected. It was a squash match. Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess not, obviously. But I thought they I thought they were planning on making this match for this week. Last week.
No.
No? Okay.
They teased it with Rush calling out Tozawa. but Lio never laid out the challenge.
Oh, okay. Lio never officially laid out the challenge.
It was only when Akira got under Lio's skin that Lio wanted to fight.
Oh, okay. So, but yeah, this is going to be a very interesting feud. This is a good first feud for Lio. I mean, in spite of, him still, he's not terrible, but, there is still that, Japanese language barrier that Tozawa has at times. But but he has a lot of charisma, and, the crowd's definitely behind him. This is definitely a feud that, both of these guys can give it their all, and I think they can both put themselves over. I think this it'll probably be Lio winning. But I think they can do it in a way that it won't hurt Tozawa.
I would agree with that to an extent. I definitely feel like this is a feud that Lio Rush is going to need to come out the better of in order to help establish Lio's positioning on 205 Live. We kind of know what Akira Tozawa is capable of, but at the same time, Tozawa recently has been positioned as kind of that JTTS, where he gets the wins over people he should beat, but when he comes up against anybody of star value on the 205 Live roster, he ends up dropping the decision, be it to Hideo Itami, like we saw a couple of weeks ago, or to Buddy Murphy, like we saw recently as, I want to say last month, it was the Buddy Murphy match.
But it's kind of disappointing that Tozawa, especially with him being in that position, and I'm assuming staying in that position for the foreseeable future, that he was not able to have a longer run with the title.
Highlights of last week's main event match between Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali air. Again, excellent match, well worth going out of your way to see. Don't need to talk about it any further on here. Drew Gulak then gets microphone time with Kendrick and Gallagher in the background. Gulak stating that he wants to go to the top of the Cruiserweight division here in 205 Live, which kind of to me seems like they're setting the stage for a return to the Mustafa Ali Drew Gulak feud from before. Would you be okay if we revisited that?
I'd definitely be okay with that, as long as it goes in the reverse direction this way. I mean, we talked about it before. There's a very limited supply of top-level heel challengers for Cedric, and Gulak definitely deserves his opportunity sooner rather than later.
It's an opportunity for Gulak to get to the top of the 205 Live division, a division that is currently topped by Cedric Alexander. And in our main event, scheduled for one fall, it is the Cruiserweight Champion Cedric Alexander defending against Hideo Itami. And, all right, I'll go ahead and say it. Holy disappointment, Batman.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent match, but definitely, between these two, you would have thought that they could have put on a much better match.
Good, but not nearly as good as the main events we've been getting recently between guys like Ali, Itami, Murphy, Cedric.
And especially considering it's for the title.
Like, the Murphy and Alexander match from last month was fantastic. Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy last week on 205 Live was fantastic. This was just another Cruiserweight match to me.
Yeah, that's
so I gotta consider this something of a disappointment, right, Brandon?
Oh, definitely. There was one spot that was kind of funny. I want to say this was in this match where I forget if it was Cedric or Itami, brought out a chair and put it down for them to sit in.
No, that was in the Akira Tozawa.
Oh, right, that was in the Tozawa, the Lio.
Lio set up a chair for Tozawa. Tozawa kicked it away. Right.
But yeah, so yeah.
I will say this much. The one cool thing that I did like about this match was the drop kick into the steps at ringside there. I thought that was really well done and really well sold by Cedric. But as soon as Cedric kicked out and sat up from that, you knew that Cedric was retaining the title.
Yeah, I mean, this match definitely wasn't the greatest. It was, and with these two, you would think that they could put in a much better effort. So I don't know what happened here exactly.
All right, so it seems that we're going to have Drew Gulak as the next challenger for Cedric Alexander.
Yeah,
most
I would
likely.
think so.
There's nobody else immediately at the top. My next question to you is obvious. Where does Hideo Itami go from here? Because honestly, I can't think of anywhere else in the Cruiserweight division where he really fits right now.
I honestly have no idea, and it's very disappointing that Itami, who came in with such fanfare, he was one of the first big name signings for NXT, and really was the one that started the catalyst to bring NXT to the next level. He's really become forgettable in his whole entire WWE run, and you were thinking that 205 would be a way for him to kickstart his career back up, but now it's like, after this loss, and it was a definitive loss, there weren't any shenanigans or anything like that where he can say, I deserve a rematch. It's, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, they have that whole deal now with Pro Wrestling Noah, so maybe he ends up going back or something. I don't know.
Well, the talk is that his contract expires at the end of this year, so frankly, him going back and working with Noah wouldn't surprise me if that becomes a full-time thing for Itami after his WWE contract expires. I don't see anywhere else in the Cruiserweight division where he really fits in. He was never able to get his footing in NXT because of the injuries. And here on 205 Live, he's never really established himself with a fan base that you would think, based on the kind of people that you would think a fan base that would be familiar with him based on the fact that they kind of aim toward the hardcore fans and not the casuals.
Well, but see, I feel like at least just on a general level of building him up, both, I mean, for the casuals to an extent, but also just, within the 205 Live division, I would have liked them to have kept Team Japan together a little bit longer and had him kind of get that rub off of Tozawa, who is very popular amongst the crowd, and that be a way to build him up. It feels like they rushed him a little too fast, where they had him with Tozawa to start off going up against Lucha House Party, but then he kicks Tozawa to the curb, beats him, and then automatically is, put in title contention.
We'll have to see what ends up happening with 205 Live going into the future, but that does wrap up the here and now for 205 Live, putting a nice little bow on the July 10th episode here. Scale of 1 to 10, Brandon, where do you fall?
I'm gonna give it a 6. I mean, there wasn't, the opening match wasn't bad. The whole Lio Rush Tozawa thing, it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. But like we talked about, the main event was very lackluster, especially as compared to what we're used to seeing in 205, and what we know both of these two are capable of.
I'm right around a 6.5 for this show here. I'm a little bit biased here. I really enjoyed the Lio Rush Akira Tozawa interaction. And I think that if they give these guys the 15 to 20 minutes that they've been giving main events over the recent weeks, that it could very well become the best match in 205 Live history. I think Tozawa is horrendously underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And Lio Rush is showing flashes of brilliance already that a 23-year-old, frankly, should not be capable of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, these two... but it'll be interesting to see how they handle next week, because they have two matches that could be big. Definitely Tozawa and Rush will probably be the headliner and be the longer of the two matches. But next week's going to be very interesting to see the direction that 205 is going, both with TJP versus Dar, and also Rush against Tozawa.
One-word review, Brandon. What do you got for me?
Lackluster. We've been heaping the praises of 205 for so many weeks now, and the post Enzo and the Drake Maverick era has been great so far, and yet this was one of those nights where it's like, okay, you came up a little short.
You remember how you asked me about hyphenated words on our SmackDown review?
Yes.
Down to earth.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 205 Live was on such this hot streak, and now this is finally starting to bring it down to earth.
One of the, as you mentioned, one of the more lackluster, one of the more disappointing episodes of 205 we've had recently, and I think the way that the Cruiserweight title match plays out is relatively decent as a match as it was. I mean, I'd probably put it around 2.5, 3 stars. But knowing what those two are capable of, though, this has to be classified as a colossal disappointment.
Yeah, definitely. It's. I think they can definitely rebound from this, but this was definitely a disappointing episode.
Yeah, this was a misstep compared to what we've been getting recently with 205 Live. All right, let's go ahead and do some plugs here real quick,
okay.
since we forgot to do them
yep.
on the SmackDown Live episode here. You can listen to more of myself here on the W2M Network when Brandon and I do the NXT review every Thursday night until Gary comes back. I'm not sure when that'll be. The good news is I hear the boys will be coming home soon, so hopefully all will be back to normal soon for Gary, and he'll be able to take back over on his traditional hosting role for NXT. But you can listen to myself and Brandon cover NXT tomorrow. It's Wednesdays. We're recording this for those for the NXT review. In addition, I also host the Kickoff here on the W2M Network. We return August 9th with our AFC predictions, with our college football predictions. And then through the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th, we cover the AFC, the NFC, and then the postseason and playoff predictions on the Kickoff here on the W2M Network. In addition, Brandon, you host a couple of other shows here on the W2M Network you can tell everybody about as well.
Yeah, I've got, first off, Monday Night Raw review. Me and Liz talk about Monday Night Raw. You can catch this past week's episode as well as our predictions for SmackDown, for Extreme Rules in the archives. And coming back in August will be Fantasy Football to the Max, where myself and Jason Teasler will run down all of the action on the fantasy side of football, getting you ready for your season and, giving you all the scoops on who's hot, who's not, start, sit, all that. Booms and busts.
In addition, coming soon, How the War Was Won, a look back at the Monday Night War between WCW and the WWF. I have officially made it to the 1995 Royal Rumble, Brandon.
So you're half a year away.
A little less now, because our show will start at the 11th of July, I believe, for the first In Your House pay-per-view. Well, the second In Your House pay-per-view, but the first one that we'll be covering in the timeline of How the War Was Won.
Yes.
We're getting there.
Yes.
Sooner rather than later.
Yep.
So, for Brandon Biskoping and his dog, I'm Harry Broadhurst. That was my cat you heard squawking at me earlier. This has been the Wrestling to the Max 205 Live review here on the W2M Network. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you guys next Tuesday night.